Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friends in Code Spaces, where we lean into the theory that IRL relationships can actually be fun and in a podcast. So stuff happens in real life. Alessio, I run into you in real life, and I love it. And what I love about that is you are always smiling. You're always... you share so much knowledge. Everybody knows you. Everybody's like, hey, high five, high five. And I never get the chance to sit and talk with you. And I have learned, oh my gosh, I have learned so much from you and the content that you create as well. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. You always have cool stuff going on when I meet you.
Yeah.
I think one of the first times we met, you had like a robot that talked with an LLM. So it's just as fun for me to meet you.
Yeah. Awesome. So one of the misconceptions that people have, like maybe people think that I'm the robot guy. I'm in different code spaces, right? I end up in different code spaces. Lately, I've been in the AI code space. I know that you're in the AI code space as well. Is that how you would define your current code space?
That sounds accurate. I would say, AI is such a horizontal technology in a way that like it's almost limiting to call it its own thing. It like permeates everything.
Yeah.
But that has been definitely my focus the last year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, awesome. So for those of you who do not know, which I know there's like 6 people that probably don't know who you are. This is Alessio from the co-host of the Latent Space Podcast and the partner and CTO of Decibel Partners. For me, I'm putting the Latent Space Podcast first because I'm such a huge fan of the work that y'all do, and I know that you know that. But so excited to have you here today. We're going to play some games. We're going to get together and play some games. So this first game that we're going to play is called Context Window. So I built something that's going to help us get through this. So I asked an LLM, and you know that LLMs might not have all the training knowledge that they need. What they know about you, what they know about Decibel Partners, what they know about the Latent Space Podcast. Okay. And not much. It didn't know much, but you know what? It's interested to ask you some questions. So let's give you a little look. And how's your eyesight, Alessio? Can you see that?
It's okay. Good. Yeah. Okay. It's quite close.
So, okay.
If I couldn't see that.
So doesn't know much from the knowledge cutoff about you, which is okay. I think that's totally fine because we're gonna fill the context window. So the next time this is gonna get transcribed. We're gonna push that out there, and it's gonna know more about you specifically. I'm sure it has a lot of your content already. It's out there. The AI is trying to grow and improve itself because I told it to in a system message that it's trying to get better. So it really thought about the topics that it wanted to ask you about. Okay. And so the part of the game that we get to play here, it's looking forward to learning more about Decibel Partners' areas of expertise and their clients and that sort of thing, which was what it was interested in. But if you don't want to talk about that, you don't need to. Because I gave it some context too. I gave it your little talk about what's going on here. I gave it a little additional context about the podcast. So these are your topics that you get to choose from. So what would you like to choose there?
Oh man, let's start with Decibel. Because I think there's a small world story. Yeah.
Okay. So,
at Decibel, all we do is invest in early stage technical founders.
Okay.
And all of us used to work at these large multi-stage firms and always felt that pre-product market fit, it's really hard for the average VC to understand a technical product. So we built a new firm from the ground up to do that. And my partner, John Sakore, was actually an early investor in Cloudflare.
Oh, okay.
So last year at RSA, our founders dinner, Michelle was our guest speaker.
Oh, nice.
Matthew Prince was a speaker at our AI Pioneers event last fall. So,
awesome.
There's kind of like this Decibel Cloudflare bond that has been there for a while. So I'm kind of disappointed in the model that it didn't make that connection.
It probably should have.
But
yeah, and
okay.
it was a Cloudflare. It's a Cloudflare hosted model too. So that's really we'll work on that. All right, I'll put that through. This should probably happen automatically, but like I said, we're in a beta version here. But here's somebody. I don't know, who should we have talk here. I think Callum's going to give you this question.
How does Decibel Partners' expertise intersect with the themes and trends Alessio has discussed on Latent Space? And are there any common threads that tie the company's work together across different industries and domains?
I would say Latent Space, really the core behind it is creating this AI engineering practice. That's something that Swix, my co-host, kind of pioneered. And it's all about finding things that people understand are important, but don't quite know how to talk about, like I think AI is in that space where today is slightly getting more mature, but when we started the podcast a year ago, everybody was like, oh yeah, language models. And it's like, how do you use them? It's like, oh, I don't use them. It's like, but they're important,
Yeah.
So the goal of the podcast was like, how do you take things that are technically interesting and bridge the gap between what's commercially viable,
Right.
So the work that we do at Decibel is often taking founders that are at the forefront of these technological waves and help them build great businesses.
Okay.
And that's, Cloudflare is a great example. Like Matthew was like manually collecting domains that he was putting on the list, and then Cloudflare, now it's like a massive company that is like super successful. And what we want to do with Latent Space is inspire the next generation of founders. It's
Awesome.
like, hey, you love AI. You maybe don't quite know how to make it into a business, but you understand that the technology can change a space that you're interested in. And we work with founders to bridge that gap together.
Can you talk a little bit, for those of us who haven't been through a VC flow like that, can you talk a little bit about what do you mean by that, by help? Like, what does that practically look like?
Yeah. So, well, a lot of times, especially in ads capital. So I led the seed for Jeremy Howard's new research lab.
Awesome.
And Jeremy obviously is a great technological,
Right.
how do you say? Technologician? I grew up in Italy, so I'm just making it up.
Dude,
Anyway.
that word that you just made, it's like a magician
Sounds
of
real, right?
technology. Yeah.
He is kind of a magician of technology.
Technologist, I think is what you were looking for, but I'm going to give Jeffrey, I think he
Okay.
is a technologician. I like that.
And so the investment there is like, how do we take, the idea is Jeremy he created Fast AI. He actually helped a lot of people that are deep learning engineers today learn.
Yeah.
How do you take this technology that is being almost kept behind closed doors at OpenAI and Gemini and DeepMind and all these labs and move it to a place where most enterprises can leverage it? So the work that we do as VCs, one, obviously fund the company before you can actually make any money. And then how do you connect people on the enterprise side that need to solve these business problems, but they themselves cannot be in touch with the early stage community?
Right.
So we kind of bridge this gap between the two, and then we do the usual work of helping with recruiting.
Nice.
Obviously Jeremy is like everybody knows Jeremy, everybody wants to work with him, but with a lot of founders is how do you build the company? How do you hire for roles that you never hired before? So
Right.
you're a brilliant engineer. How do you interview a VP sales? Like
Right.
that's not easy
Yeah.
for somebody to figure out. So that's a lot of the work, and then helping the founder go down the right commercial route.
Nice.
I think a lot of times VCs that are less interested in the technology are more focused on monetization, especially with technologies like AI. It's more about the adoption and the data flywheel. So as an investor, you have to understand what really matters in a market.
Yeah. And you're bringing wisdom. You're bringing wisdom so that they sail. That's awesome. That's really cool. I hadn't thought about that before, actually. Thank you. Thanks for that.
No, this content is actually helpful, I hope.
Yeah. Can you choose another one? Let's choose another one here.
Let's do Latent Space.
Let's do
can't.
it. Let's do it. We can't not touch Latent Space. You got two questions here, actually. I think I like the second one.
Yeah,
I like the second one. So how do you see Latent Space evolving in the future? I feel like you are constantly evolving that show, which is awesome. And are there any new formats, topics, or themes that you're considering exploring to further the podcast's mission of exploring the intersection of AI and engineering?
There are a lot. Swix and I always think about this. So when we started, the only format we had was a one-on-one founder interview. So somebody would come on and tell us about what they're working on and whatnot.
Yeah.
Then we decided to bring on researchers. Then we decided to bring on folks like Logan Kilpatrick, who was the head of developer relations at OpenAI. And then we're like, okay, there's the people, but then there are like the facts, right?
Yeah.
So like papers. So
Yeah.
we started doing a weekly paper club in our Discord.
Yeah.
So every Wednesday at noon, there's a paper club. We discuss one paper. Sometimes the authors come by. That's not recorded actually today, but it's more because it's quite chaotic sometimes. It's just like a lot of people and like people ask questions and whatnot. And then we started doing on Fridays AI in action group.
Okay.
So folks that are deploying AI in production, they do like a short talk on a specific topic. That might be RAG, that might be evals, that might be all of these different things. So we try to branch out from how do you learn, which
Yeah.
is the podcast, to how do you like stay in front of the cutting edge that might not be applicable today,
Yeah.
but you want to understand in 2 years, what are we going to see that is going to change the way I work?
Yeah.
And then the AI in action is, I just need to ship this thing next week. How do I do it? Can you help me?
Yeah.
So that has been on the community side. As far as content goes, we started doing these live from conference podcasts. So we had a new reps recap. That was about 6 hours of content. So there's a lot to recap. And Swix is actually at ICLR right now in Vienna.
Okay.
So we'll probably do a ICLR recap.
Okay. Awesome.
Then we have the AI Engineer Summit. There's the AI Engineer World's Fair in June.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in Latent Space. It's like a lot of interest, obviously. And we had, almost 2 million people in the first year come to Latent Space on the newsletter and the podcast and the YouTube channel.
2 million.
And all of that.
Wow.
So it's been quite the community.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Man, I love what y'all are building and how helpful it is. I think that I spent a lot of time on the BART here, and I've spent a lot of time with you. You might not have known I was with you, but you were with me.
I know sometimes at times people stop me at events without looking me in the face. They're behind me.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, hey.
I know.
It's like, oh, you're Alessio. No, I heard the voice. It's like, you're the guy from the podcast. It's like, no, yeah, okay, cool. Great to meet you.
That's awesome. Actually, I want to talk. I think we're ready to go to the next game. I think we're ready to go to the next game.
I'm ready for anything.
You're ready for anything. Remember what you said. So you've seen the what Hot Ones is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're gonna do something called Cold Ones.
Okay.
Somebody's
walking in.
Producer Peter's coming with a thing. Now, do you know what this is? You just said earlier that you were from. Yeah, you've had one.
I grew up in Italy, but I've seen this on The Simpsons.
You've had it on The Simpsons, exactly.
Pina colada in red.
So your choice. Do you want red or pina colada?
Red.
Red. You're going red. So you haven't had one of these before.
No, I actually don't think I have.
If you were, you said Rome. What's the when it's so hot, you have to have a treat as a kid that you want to chase? Is there an ice cream truck or what's the thing that you do? Is it Italian ice?
So when you're, that's funny. So if it's hot, you're at the beach in Italy because there's not much to work on anyway. And we have these carts with big blocks of ice. Yeah. And you just run up and they do shaved ice and then they put syrups.
Okay.
On it. So it kind of looks like this. It's probably much healthier.
Let's cheers.
Cheers.
And I want you to have this is your first Slurpee.
It is.
Okay.
Let's get it on camera.
Let's do it.
Let's not miss this. Cherry?
Possibly.
It's red. Well, definitely not actual cherry, but
It's red. So what I'm trying to bring here is a feeling of nostalgia. So let's go back to that ice that you had on the beach there. And I want you to think about the first time that you were around a place where you're like, maybe I like coding. Maybe I like technology in this way.
There are a couple things. So I grew up in a family with not a lot. And my first computer was something that my mom's office was going to throw away. She was a cashier.
Yeah.
And it was this old iMac G3, the ones with the
gorgeous one.
The color back. Yeah. No, it was cool when it came out, but when I got it, it was 15 years old. But it was really cool to just have something that you can create things. Yeah. And then
what were you creating?
At the time, I would just nothing really, using drawing software and whatnot. And I was computers are kind of cool, but whatever. And then I got my first PSP, the PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
And we couldn't really afford more than one game per year. But there were just so many good games. Yeah. So I'm I need more than one game per year.
Yeah.
So I go online and it's how do you download PSP games for free? And I'm and it's this whole world of homebrew software and whatnot. So that was the first time when I was oh man, if you learn how to program these things, you can just get anything you want.
Yeah.
As a kid, that was getting a video game.
Yeah. But do you think that's true still?
Yeah.
If you learn how to code,
now with AI, you can get people.
Yeah.
You can create agents to do things for you that you wouldn't need a person to do before.
Yeah.
So that has always been a pretty important lesson for me. It's just kind of sometimes you need to understand how to leverage the systems to get the outcomes that you want.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are just looking for the system to do the thing.
Yeah.
Versus building it takes more work. Yeah. But you can do things that are for you.
So that's
more. So I can see how people get hooked.
Wow, that one tasted like suntan oil.
Yum. Yeah. Let me try it later. That sounds great.
So you're playing on the computer. You're thinking about coding. Did you get into a coding space? Did you ever code?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, I started doing the PSP stuff. I was probably like, I don't know, 15 years old and something. And then I went to study computer science.
Okay.
And I dropped out of school to start an open hardware company.
Okay.
So, I learned to code and I learned how to design boards.
Oh, nice.
That was I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Don't do a hardware company. As a VC, I still give that advice. And then I ended up leading engineering at a bunch of startups. And
cool.
that's always been, like, for me, like, coding has always been part of the DNA.
What was that first code that you did?
The first code was definitely getting a PSP to jailbreak.
Okay.
You know? So that was definitely the start. I'll never forget it. And it was really my first job, like doing it for people at school. So
you took money to?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh,
it's like,
freelance.
It's like I already cannot afford things. I need to share this with others.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So if Sony's listening, don't come after me. You already came after George Hotz that came on our podcast. Don't come after me too. It's like the statute of limitation. I'm sure it's over. So.
All right. So you have all the wisdom that you have now. You're giving this to other people. If you could go back to PSP days, Alessio, what was the piece of advice that you would give right then to you there? What advice would you give? Because you give advice all the time.
Yeah, I would say my advice to my previous self was probably be more public about the things that you do.
Okay.
You know? I think that's something that I learned later in life. It's like sometimes just by sharing what you think is interesting, you kind of attract people to you that are of similar things. And that's how Zwix and I met, just like on Twitter. Actually, I hadn't met Zwix in person for like 2 years.
Oh, really?
After I met him. And he's also a big promoter of this whole, like, learn in public.
Yeah, for sure.
Thing. And
yeah,
that would be really it. And building a community of people that are like-minded. Sometimes you just got to put the back signal out there. Like in Rome, it's like nobody cares about computers. It's like people are like, play soccer, go to the beach. It's like go have gelato.
Yeah.
There's less of a technical community.
Okay.
So,
do you remember what you and Swix were talking about?
So he ran this thing called DevTools Angels group.
Okay.
And I forget. I think he was an angel in like a company that I was looking at or something like that. And then we connected on Twitter. And then we have this now it's called Latent Space Discord, but it used to be a Dev Invest Discord.
Okay.
So it was basically anybody who's interested in talking about investing. There's also a developer.
Okay.
It was like kind of like a private space. It was like invite only at the time.
Okay.
To do it. So we started spending a bunch of time on there together. Funny enough, we have like a lot of Cloudflare emojis because everybody loves Cloudflare in the Discord. So whenever the Discord, the Cloudflare price moves, everybody in the Discord is like,
Oh, you got a lot of investors.
We have like the stonks with like the net logo on it.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's how we met, and obviously now we're good.
Yeah,
friends.
yeah, cool. And then how did you decide? Okay, good call.
Sugar addiction is real.
How did you decide to start that podcast?
It's funny. It's kind of a meme.
Yeah.
Sean was like on 2 podcasts in a week or something.
Okay.
And I posted him in the Discord, and I was like, "Oh, you're such a podcaster," and he was like, "Ha!" And it's like, "Oh, maybe we should do a podcast at some point." I told him, and he was like, "Oh, maybe we should do one recapping AI stuff," because I think it was like 2 months before we were at OpenAI, and Sam Altman was there. It was like a hack day. And he gave this talk about the models are getting better and whatnot. And there were maybe like 40 people. So it was like quite a small event. Yeah. And we were like, nobody else knows about this, like even in our developer circles. Yeah. Like most people were not tuned to like LLMs and all of these things. So that's why our first guest was Logan from OpenAI. It's like, come tell people what this actually does. And how it works. And then, just kind of started from there. We've done it now every week for a year and 3 months, something like that. So it's hard to do every week. We were like, man, every week, like, is there enough stuff to talk about? Yeah. And now it's like, there's enough stuff to talk about for sure.
Absolutely.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, cool, awesome. So our producer Peter did some digging. Okay. And we'd like to talk about your ex.
Okay.
But by that I mean Twitter.
Yeah.
Did you have a little heartbeat?
No, well, I mean, I've been with my wife for now almost 10 years, so I was like, man, you're going way back. I don't know where you find that.
Let me skip to it real quick. All right, so here we go. This is what is this? What is Fanahova? What is? Tell me about that.
Fana is like, shorter of my last
name. Last name. Okay, so it's like a nickname.
Yeah.
Okay.
My friends and my family always call me
okay.
that. But it's always taken, right? It's four letters. Like you're never gonna get it.
Yeah.
And I was a huge Jay-Z fan growing up.
Okay.
And actually, I started at a website called rapgenius.com explaining lyrics. So I was like, okay, what nickname should I use?
Yeah.
Fanahova.
Okay.
It also is like Fan-A-Hova. It's like fan of Hova. There's kind of like a double entendre.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, might as well just use the same everywhere. Okay. But so few people recognize it, but when they recognize it, they're like, let's go. and behind me on my Zoom background, I have like a bunch of like Jay-Z vinyls.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
People can get there. If they get on Zoom.
Yeah. Awesome. And now the context window will know about you and JG's relationship.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
So here's a great, it's a little great post about you from
nice.
Forbes 30 under 30, a post that we found here. Congrats on that. That's huge. Yeah, super huge. And you talked a little bit about this already. We talked about you eating your Italian ice there. Does that stir up any? How'd that feel? How'd that feel for you?
No, it was great. Well, actually, I didn't know I was going to be on the list.
Yeah.
And I woke up and my friends in New York had texted me about it already. Yeah. And I was like, oh, congrats. I was like, about what?
Yeah.
I was like, and then I went on Twitter and I saw it.
Yeah.
No, I was just proud of it, mostly for my family.
Yeah.
It's just to send the link to my mom. It's like, hey, look, this is what I'm, because like, there's no venture capital in Italy.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, you're doing venture
capital.
Sounds great. I'm very proud of you, whatever that means.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think like Forbes is obviously like a worldwide known publication.
Awesome.
So my dad obviously printed it and framed it. Nice. My dad prints everything. So he's just like a serial printer. But this one was like a highlight for him. So it was great.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that. We have this shirt from you here, and I'm actually interested. I know this is Brev. The dude's so great. Dude, Natter's so great. He's runs brev.dev, right? Yep. And printed this shirt that's SF is dead. I feel like there's a period where SF is dead, and I would like to go back in time a little bit before, and then we'll talk a little bit after. But like, do you think that SF died, and do you think it's back, or it's on its way back? What is this? What does this instill?
I moved to SF middle of 21.
Okay.
SF was pretty dead.
Yeah, everything was pretty dead.
21 was
21.
Everything was dead.
RIP 21.
And I at the time it was really that. Actually, we had an office in South Park at my previous firm, and there was nobody there. I was like, I would go there. It's like Excel was empty and like Code2 was empty. All the other firms, like nobody was showing up. I was like, is anybody still here? It's like, what's going on? And obviously part of it was like, SF's kind of like COVID restrictions were in for a long time after other cities and whatnot. And I think a lot of the talent was also like, let me just go somewhere else. But I think luckily AI kind of brought a lot of people back just because it's really hard to not be a part of it. If you're like a founder, you're like at the cutting edge of it. It's hard to like be in Miami.
Yeah.
Like, I was in Miami last month for a wedding. It's like, I love Miami, not for work,
right.
So like when you're like outside of it, it's just like a different vibe.
Yeah.
And I think like the shirt, I love it so much because it's like it makes fun of itself, but it's also like, a skeleton like surfing. Yeah. It's like, it's not about tech, it's just about, like the vibes were dead, but now the vibes are back,
Yeah. Like easily 6 meetups. And I don't even know how.
Yeah, no, I think last year with Latent Space, we've done 35 events. So,
so you're part of it.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
You were in my Spotify Wrapped.
Nice.
How does it feel, man? Like that's. I mean, like not because it's me, but like that. Like, how many hours did you say? Do you know how many minutes? So I've listened to 1,300 minutes of you.
Let me just do a quick math. I would say probably like 1.5 million minutes, 2 million minutes of Latent Space.
How's that feel?
A little crazy. One, I'm like, why do you even care? Some episode, like we did this episode with Quentin from Luther AI about the mathematics of training LLMs. It's basically like how do you calculate, the memory that you need,
Yeah.
the cost and whatnot. And we released it, and I was like, okay, maybe like 2,000-3,000 researchers will care. And then it was on the front page of Hacker News for like hours, and it was like a very widely listened episode. So
Yeah.
to me, the learning is always like, even if you don't think people care, just do it.
Yeah.
Because somebody might find it interesting.
Yeah.
And like, you will really make a difference for them.
Yeah.
And whenever I ask people, what's your favorite episode? Like, folks have a lot of different answers. There's not like, oh, these are the only episodes that people care about.
Right.
And these ones are like flops.
Yeah.
It's like very varied.
Yeah.
So it's
I love how approachable you make it. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you both do it. And I don't, if there's a secret to it, like you should let everybody know, but you are like, it's like, oh, I've never thought about vision AI things before. And then you're like, oh, here's, and then you are asking these like really rich questions and you're like, oh, I understand all of vision AI. Like, I don't even know how you do that. I don't know. But it's really, really impressive. So if people have not listened, Latent Space podcast is, get some more million minutes on there.
Yeah, no, we're ready.
Yeah.
We had a big spec when Elon Musk followed us on
Oh, nice.
a lot of bots too, but
he comes with them.
Yeah, exactly. He's got an army.
His clone army. Do you want us to take away the Slurpee from you?
I'll
Are
take
you
another
coming out
sip,
sharp another hit? Because we have another game coming up, and we need a prop.
I'll take it.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Cheers.
Thanks, producer Peter.
It's cherry.
Yeah,
Oh, it was?
I knew
Okay.
it. I knew it.
You know your flavors.
I should be a sommelier of big gulps.
All right, so we're gonna put you up. Hold on a second. We've got a little Cloudflare playground, AI playground here, and we're gonna put you up against Llama 3.
Let's do a llama tree.
Llama 3, let's do it. And I'm gonna give you both the same prompt. So that prompt is, you are incredibly thoughtful, which I think is very true of you. So I don't need to.
Let's see what llama does.
Yeah, and you must answer the question from the user in 5 words or less, where I am the user. And I want you to make sure it's your best representation of your ideas as possible, which you probably always would do anyway. But you know what
For
you
sure.
have to do. You have to do that.
Try harder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a little try harder there, and let me grab this. This is definitely a beta show. Here we go. And the first question that I want to ask, if I can find it again, is, what is the telltale sign of when a startup is worth investing in 5 words or less? A telltale sign. And you kind of just, your finger writing. And what we're going to do is we're going to just take a look at both of them, but we'll see what you say first. All right, so if you can hold that up and show the camera what you said there.
Well, right here. Man, this is terrible handwriting.
So founder has purity of motivation. Wow.
Huh?
That was really wow.
Do that, llama tree.
Yeah, let's see what they did. Let's see what they say. Strong team and validation. What do you think?
It's not gonna make it. Not gonna make it, llama tree. I'm sorry, Zuck.
Can we talk
Meta
about
Ventures is not gonna work for llama tree. 8B, maybe 400B. Maybe that's what they're doing for 100B. I would say startups are like so painful. They take so long, and they're most likely not gonna work.
Okay.
And what I look for in founders is like, purity of motivation, I call it, and I got that from an old colleague of mine. It's basically like a founder that just has to solve that mission, no matter if it's like the hot thing, no matter if it's like working, no matter if people agree with him. It's something that you see usually just in the best founders. Venture is like this idea of a power law. So a normal distribution is like most outcomes are in the middle. They're kind of average. In venture, most of the money is made in just a small number of companies that are the outliers, and then everything else is worth nothing.
Okay.
So you're looking for people that are like just exceptionally passionate about what they do, and they're just gonna stick with it even when it's like not working, because most likely it's not gonna work, and when it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. Right. There's no like, oh, you've done a good enough job.
Right.
It's like no, like you're gonna go out of business.
Yeah.
So, it's something that is not easy to suss out, because most founders are somewhat good salesmen, like of their idea and whatnot, if they're able to raise money.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about digging into like, why do you actually care?
Gotcha.
Like what what in your life has kind of led you to like be here in this moment, you know? Like I meet a lot of founders that are like, oh yeah, my crypto company didn't work. Here's my AI company. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, well, not AI. It's like you make money. It's like, well, it's not that easy, you know?
Right.
So usually those companies usually don't work.
Right.
But a lot of times I mean, with founders that are like, hey, I've actually been in AI for a long time, but never quite felt the technology was ready for prime time. And now I think we crossed the threshold where it's ready for like large production work, you know, workloads and all of that. So
Awesome.
Yeah, that's important.
And you see that if when it gets bad, they're going to stick with it because it's in
Yeah.
there.
I've seen a lot of, I was investor in a company that did in my previous firm, software for restaurants.
Okay.
And then COVID hit and it's like all the restaurants are closed.
Right.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I can curse, but
Go
we
for
can cut
it. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, how do we make this like a delivery software now?
Right.
You know, it's like, how do we kind of like pivot? But it's like, if you don't care, you're like, oh,
Well,
I got unlucky.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
throw in the towel,
Right.
go back to do something else. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great. Let's get to.
All right, Llama, 1-0. Let's
do
go.
it.
Get out of here.
And this is augmenting, right? Like you can use it if you want to. So this is an interesting one. Who makes the best podcast guests? 5 words or less.
5 words or
Be
less.
thoughtful too, please. Thanks.
I'm doing 4 words.
Okay.
I just need 4 words, Llama.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
What'd you get?
I got honest, witty, and storyteller.
Yeah, you could even hyphenate that. You could even go 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's see what it says. Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan. I don't know.
Joe Rogan on Latent Space. Somebody told me I'm the Joe Rogan of AI.
Oh,
but
really?
I don't know if that was a compliment. But
do you feel like- do you-
I don't know. I just ignored it. I didn't acknowledge it. But I was like, okay. No smoking pot on Latent Space, but you never know.
I'm gonna give it one more because Christopher Hitch. I don't even know who Christopher Hitchens is.
Not me
I don't know
either.
what we're doing. I don't know where this is coming from. All right, so you've got 3. You have 3 new guests for your show.
Exactly.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, let me just.
I definitely think you won that one. So it's 2-0.
Exactly.
It's 2-0, man. And I know Peter actually was like, producer Peter's like, you should talk to him about basketball. And I'm sorry, I don't know anything about basketball, so I can't.
All right, Peter, you're in. Get Craig out of the chair.
Yeah, he said something about the Knicks, and I'm like, dude, no, it's just, I'm not gonna get anything out of it. So okay, here, it better know, right? What are the next 3 big things in AI in 5 words or less? Yeah, I bet you're gonna win this one. You're gonna go undefeated, I think.
All right. This should all be hyphenated, but we'll.
Oh yeah, you're doing that.
Okay.
All
This
right.
is enough. This is
Okay.
enough. All right. It's really 2. So simulation and services as software.
Okay,
We call
nice.
Let's start with simulation. So we actually just did an episode about
Loved it.
simulative AI. It's really so OpenAI started with reinforcement learning.
Mm-hmm.
So reinforcement learning is really you put an agent in a simulated environment basically, and depending on the action that it takes, you said that was good, that was bad, and kind of you use that as a loop. But then what they found is like it's really hard to scale to generic knowledge, and so they moved on to LLMs. But now you have these LLMs that are great for text completion, like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But when you ask them to do a more agentic workflow, it's hard to trust, and it's hard to teach it how to do it in a supervised way.
Right.
You know, you need a lot of people to give feedback on the agent decision. So I think actually the next thing is using this model, so like self-play some of these roles, especially in like more enterprise settings. So, you know, you have a new product you want to launch. How do you sell it? What are like the objections the customer would have? So you would have like, you know, a sales agent talk to like a customer agent trained on like your customer conversations, and then have them kind of like play out a lot of scenarios for things like that.
Yeah.
And then come back of it with suggestions for the user to actually say, hey, okay, this is how you should think about the downfalls of this. And I gave a talk at NVIDIA GTC about the rise of the full stack employee, I called it.
Oh, nice.
So using the simulation for people in different departments to simulate what others will say. So if you're a salesperson and you want to pitch a contract to a customer, it's like you have like this legal agent, that you can like talk to and say, okay, what's like my legal team gonna say if I propose like this type of structure and things like that. Same with marketing. It's like, how would they message like the new product, So it kind of removes the limit from folks to ask suggestions from other teams, and then they go to them once they're like a level above. It's kind of like an initial code review. It's like you've done the first step.
That's clever.
And then service as a software is like the outside in version. So the simulation is like inside in. So you're like already in the company. Service as a software is things that you used to have outsourced because they're not really strategic to you. Using AI agents to have on demand 24/7. So we're seeing this in security. There's like a big cybersecurity talent shortage, as everybody knows.
Right.
A lot of companies just don't have the right folks on team. You're gonna have we have one company that does security agents as a service. So you can have them in your organization kind of help you triage a lot of the problems and slim them down for your actual security practitioners. And we'll see the same with software engineers. You're going to have automated software engineer do some of the initial work. So those are like the two sides of it.
Cool.
That's enough. I know that asked for 3, but I only got 2 right now. I can't come up with them on
you
the spot,
gave 2 examples of the...
exactly.
2 examples inside there. Explainable AI... transfer learning and meta learning, are those even words? I haven't had a...
meta learning is like obviously talking their own book. But I would say, transfer learning is why we're here.
Right.
If it's something that already been there. Explainable AI is like the usual thing. It's like, it's like explainable humans. It's like, where are they? Why did you do what you just do? I don't know. Just kind of all my previous experience kind of led me here, but I don't know specifically why.
Okay. So you went 3.0.
Yeah.
You 3.0.
Yeah. They need the 400B model.
For sure. What we're gonna. That was a sports term.
Exactly. This is why the NBA like best of 5 in the first round, because sometimes it's just over. You don't need 7 games.
So thank you so much for being on the show and playing these silly games with us. And we really, I love the work that you do. So if you haven't already, everybody at home, check out the Latent Space podcast, follow Alessio, and join the Discord, right? There's a Discord. There's an awesome Discord about AI. Such a great guest. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making so much content, man. And I learned so much. So thank you.
Yep. Bring out the Slurpees to celebrate now.
Thanks.